So, it's your first rate of escape from Tarkov? Stop what you're doing right now and follow along with this video where we skip all the BS and get you straight into it. Pick USEC if you want a bit of an easier time on Lighthouse. This is the only effect that Bear or USEC have aside from the weapons and ammo that you start with. USEC start with NATO weapons such as M4A1s, M1911s, and MP5s, and the Bear start with AK-74s and PP-19s. The gear is pretty much equivalent, so this is personal preference. I would recommend going with USEC to start your first wipe, as Lighthouse can be a bit more tricky as a Bear. We're going to start out here with the settings page. Under game settings, quick slots always shown, stamina and stance always shown, health condition always shown. Quick slots will allow you to see what you have equipped and what's hotkeyed. This way you can just glance up and see what key something is set to if you forgot, or how much of it you have left. Stamina and stance will allow you to see if you are fully crouched or standing, as well as how much stamina you have left on your arms or legs. Health condition is good for knowing your health is topped off and you have no damage done to you. This one is a bit of personal preference as it will appear when you get shot if it's set to auto hide. I use monochrome as it makes it look all white and then turn red when you take damage. If you choose polychrome, it will be green before taking damage. Personal preference. Highlight should be everything by default. Double click item use is set to in raid only, so you don't accidentally drink any moonshine in your stash. Field of view is personal preference. You either want it set to max or 69, which gives you a similar field of view to other shooter games. This also makes everything in the game world appear larger on top of making the visual recoil feel less. Graphic settings and post effects are purely personal preference, though I'll go down them real quick so you can see what I have set up. Next is sound, another one that is mostly personal preference. For sound, you will want to change the volume to 60 and increase it through Windows. For some reason, turning the sound down to 60 drastically reduces the amount of ambient noise that you will hear. Now we will be hopping into the controls. Most of the default keybinds are serviceable, but there are some you will want to be changing to make your life easier. Aside from moving, shooting, and looting, let's go over the most important keybinds that you will be needing to use, and that you should have easy access to. Something different in Tarkov from many other shooters is the use of Control and Alt modifiers. If you are familiar with MMORPGs, this will be second nature, but try to remember which keybinds require you to hold down Control or Alt. Another thing to look out for is if the key is bound to press, release, continuous, or double click. Switch between sights will change which sight you are using on your gun. For example, if you have a sight on top of a scope mount or a scope that includes two sights, you can switch between them with this key. Change scope magnification is just going to change between the magnification of your current optic, mostly applied to sniper scopes that have variable zoom. For check time, I have unbound this and set check time and exits to a press. This way you don't have to double tap O to see your extracts in time, you just press it once. Toggle tactical devices is your laser/flashlight button. Make sure this is a key that is easy to reach. I use mouse button 4. Switch device mode will change what your flashlight or laser is doing. Some attachments combine a flashlight and a laser, and this will let you switch between them. Prepare a grenade will pull a grenade from your pockets or chest rig. Clicking your mouse button will then throw the grenade. You press left mouse button to do an overhand throw, and right mouse button to do an underhand throw. You may also press and hold the mouse button down to hold the grenade and even run around with it before throwing. There is a separate keybind for emergency weapon reload. This will allow your character to reload faster, but you will drop the magazine on the floor in doing so. By default, this is set to double tap R, so don't be spamming your R key while reloading if you want to keep your magazines. Drop backpack is an incredibly important keybind. its default is double-click Z. If you are carrying a lot of loot and you get into an engagement, or anticipate getting into one, you should drop your bag by pressing this key before fighting. This is because you are weighed down by the amount of loot you are carrying, and many backpacks make you slower, especially the big ones. Just try to remember where you dropped your bag after the fight. Next and previous magazine is more of an advanced setting, but if you have several magazines with different ammo, you can hold your reload key down and scroll between your magazines. Check ammo is another important setting to remember. The default is left alt plus T. This will tell you roughly how much ammo you have left in your current magazine. Check chambers/fix malfunction is a very important keybind if you scav a lot, or shoot your gun full auto a lot. I have mine set to release, so that if my gun jams, I can press down, inspect the weapon, hold it down for a second for the animation to finish, and then release to fix the jam. That way you can just use one key to do both actions. Next are switch fire mode and check fire mode. If you have a fully automatic and are getting into a fight, set this to auto. I pretty much always leave my guns on auto and just try to be disciplined with my shooting. If you are unsure what your gun is set to and don't want to make any noise, check fire mode will allow you to see what it is set to. Sprint is a divisive one, and people have their own way of setting this, but I like to set it to continuous. This way I hold down shift to sprint, and when I release shift, I will stop sprinting. There is a little trick where if you aim down sights right after sprinting, your gun will ready much faster than if you were to do it while standing. With continuous sprint, you will release shift and immediately aim down sights for the best effect. Walk pose will affect how crouched you are. Instead of just having a crouch or uncrouched stance, you can adjust the height through this keybind. Pressing the walk keybind will immediately switch you to the slowest moving speed. I have this set to press so I can stay walking, and when I need to run I press it again to be going full speed again. Blind fire will leave you standing in place and allow you to blindly shoot over cover. I pretty much never use this, but some people get use out of it. The same goes for sidestep right and left. It's just safer to lean peek, so don't worry about these ones for now. Jump is currently set to release with the addition of vaulting. When you press spacebar and quickly release it, it will jump. With the vaulting keybind set to the same key and continuous, this allows you to hold down your spacebar to vault over objects. If you would prefer jumping to feel the same as other games, set it to press and give vaulting its own keybind. Sidearm is default set to 1, and by double tapping it you can spend some of your arm stamina to pull it out faster, which is sidearm quick swap. You may also set this to its own keybind, but the default does the trick. Scope elevation up and down change the zeroing of your optic. By default, the scopes are set to hit a target at 50 meters away, being the center of the dot. By increasing your scope elevation, the scope will shift down and your new setting will be 100 meters. If the target is 100 meters away, aiming the center of your scope at them should have the shot hit. I basically only ever use this when I'm camping and sniping somewhere, and I basically set it to 100 meters and just try to gauge the drop. If you have a rangefinder and are shooting, let's say, a rogue at the lighthouse, and know how far he is, You can typically set the zeroing to the rough distance he is away from you and aim directly at the center, so you don't have to do any calculating or guessing. Discard is another must-access keybind. I believe by default it is set to the delete key on your keyboard. I use the tilde key. This is because when you are looting, you are a sitting duck. Sometimes you have to drop items, and having this key accessible is a must, especially if you play in a group. Hold breath is another key that I have changed the settings on. By default, when you hold it down, you will be holding your breath. This is used when you are scoped in and need to remove your scope sway so that you can shoot more accurately. I have mine set to 2 keys. The first is right mouse button, and the second is left alt plus right mouse button, and it is set to release. This makes it so that when you aim your gun, you will already be holding your breath. Do keep in mind that there is a hidden stamina bar for breath, and you can't have it held forever. Something to note is that you cannot be holding your breath while moving, so with this setup, you will have to press left alt plus right mouse button to hold again, or just unscope and rescope your weapon. Shoulder transition is a new keybind that allows you to swap your gun over to your left shoulder with a penalty to unscoped accuracy and weapon spray. This is another incredibly crucial keybind as it allows you to peek left around corners without exposing your whole body. If you were to peek left on a doorway with your gun on the right side, you will be incredibly exposed. Vaulting is another new setting that I covered a little bit earlier. It is default set to spacebar continuous, so that you can hold it down to vault and climb. If you prefer to have these things separate so that your jumps are more responsive, then change this keybind. I highly recommend you go into an offline raid before doing any other raids so you can get a general feel for the movement and shooting, as well as to build the muscle memory for your keybinds. There are a lot of keybinds in this game, so building that up is very important if you want to succeed and ascend to Chad status. That's it for the settings for now. Let's go hop into the traders and get ready for your first raid.